Hello. Welcome
Hello.
to the welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell podcast.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people, which we are again not displaying at the beginning of our episode because we're so enthusiastic and so excited to be able to talk to you guys about today's topic.
I
That's
think
why.
it's grounded enthusiasm though. Like, let's be
Grounded,
real. It's
yeah.
not like floaty off the charts, like, wee. I am
Not only
on a
are we
roller coaster.
excited, we know why we're excited, and that's
Yeah.
grounded.
Yes, I would say
Yes.
so. Also, I have like 35 crystals on my desk. So I'm gonna say it's grounded.
Yeah.
For my
I
own
hope so.
sanity.
Unless they're like all quartz and rose quartz and
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
No. I need to show you. I have like when I need to feel grounded and I'm doing like an interview or something and I know it's about a topic I really love and I'm going to go off on. I have a giant, it's like a dragonstone ball that I got in
Ooh.
Sedona. And it's really heavy on top of everything else. So I
Yeah.
hold on to it and that makes me feel grounded, which this is how grounded I need to feel in our episodes. I only have this guy, Labradorite,
Little
charged
square.
up in Egypt. But yeah.
I bought this amazing, it's fully copper all the way through,
Ooh.
and it's a heart, and it's super heavy. And so it can be small enough where I can hold it, but it's heavier than every crystal on my desk. Just
Like I
bite
can feel
size.
it through the video. That's amazing.
And it's cold. It's always cold,
so
and that
supportive.
makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah. So on today's episode of Alchemist Inkwell, we are not telling you about crystals, believe it or not, but we are talking about power, which is something that crystals really do help with. So
this is true.
Bonus.
Yeah.
So
also, I'm Emily, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm KristaLyn. I don't know if you guys have been here before, but if this is your
Names are
first time,
irrelevant.
Emily and I am KristaLyn, and we are the Forgotten Storytellers who happen to also do the Alchemist Inkwell podcast, which you are listening to or watching right now. So now that we've grounded that, my gosh.
Okay, I'm gonna hold that
today,
crystal.
Today I have a feeling is going to be a pretty soapboxy episode, which I hope people are okay with. It's mostly going to be us telling you how amazing you are and giving you reasons, tools, and data on how to apply that in your everyday life and how not to sell yourself short, which Emily was just doing for me before we jumped on. So, you know,
and you did the
that.
same. Yeah, back and
Absolutely.
forth.
Yeah.
I also just want to say it's hilarious. This is one of those ideas where Krista suggested it, but we had both made TikToks on this topic that we had yet to post at the time of the recording this. We're both like, wait a second, that's a great idea. I just talked about that. I just talked about that too. But essentially, like the theme of it is how can you claim your magic, claim your power in your day-to-day life? And I wanted to just start out really quick by saying, because this is something that I get a lot of. People will be spiritually growing. They'll be, talking to their guides. They'll be expanding their natural psychic abilities. They'll be looking at their astrology, whatever it is. And at some point, they've incorporated it so much into their life, it no longer feels magical. And they feel like they are no longer doing it right.
Yep.
You're still doing it right. You've just applied it to your life in a way that is tangible and you've absorbed it. And now it's something you do on your day to day. More often than not, when people come to me and they're like, man, for months I was doing so good. And then all of a sudden it's gone. I'll be like, probably not gone. You probably just, it stopped feeling magical. It just started feeling like life, which is actually the goal.
It's integration. Yeah. It's like the self-actualization part of Maslow's hierarchy, which I don't know how relevant that is anymore, but it haunted me in health class because I sat right next to it every day. And I was like, self-actualization, one day I'll get there. But like you get there 5 times a week. And then you go back down and you build back up again. And every time it's like 2 steps backwards and 1 step forward, or 2 steps forwards and 1 step back, whichever one it feels like at the time. Because you can have both and they're both progress and neither of them is failure, which is fantastic. Like one thing that my parents have always told me, well, I guess 3 things, because they all really come into this. So I know that they end up watching this on YouTube. So hi guys, I'm going to tell you how right you are. And I hope that, it feels good. It's another thing that came with wisdom is, the nuggets that really do help. The only thing in your way is you, and you cannot fail. Like a lot of us, especially like it became a tagline of the millennial generation, I guess. If you set your mind to it, you can do it. You can achieve it. That's absolutely true. But if you set your mind to being sad, you're going to achieve that too. If you set your mind to giving your power away to other people, you're going to achieve that too. It's not whatever you set your mind to, you can achieve. It's everything you set your mind to, you achieve. You are successful in 100% of the things that you do. Yeah. So what are you currently successful in? And is that what you want to be successful in? And if not, flip the coin and, start treating yourself the way you would treat other people, that golden rule, which is actually a manifesting thing, because it's a golden rule because it appears in almost every ideology across the board and across time.
Mm-hmm.
If you treat other people the way you want to be treated, then maybe you should treat yourself the way you would treat other people.
Right. I also just want to add on to that, which I think it's absolutely perfect. Failure and success are both a perception.
Mm-hmm.
Failure doesn't actually exist.
Yep.
Neither does success actually exist. Those are both simply perceptions of how we view things. Like when I look at the concrete energy of both of those things, they're not fucking real. They just aren't real. It's an entirely human construct at the very core of it. So whenever people have deep rooted fears of failure, those kind of things, those come up. I'm like, oh, let's pull that out of there because you're fearing something that can't happen. Mm-hmm. Also, your guides have never dropped you on your ass yet. They're not going to start now. So like you've made it this far, you will continue to keep going. And not to say, and I really wanted to touch on this too, progress is back and forth, as you mentioned, and toxic positivity is 100% not what we're doing here.
No.
Because it is not just sunshine and rainbows and all emotions are divine and powerful. I was thinking about this the other day, because one of the books I'm writing, it's not a villain redemption arc necessarily. It's the journey of how a person becomes a villain and then comes back from that. And one of the big important bits, because again, looking at the best example of hero or villain redemption arc that we have, which is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
It has to be he makes a good choice, he makes a bad choice. He makes a good choice, he makes a bad choice. He makes a good choice, he makes a good choice. Oh, he makes another bad choice. It has to be that back and forth. And that's how we have to understand we're living also, because we have this unrealistic idea that once we decide to make things better, progress is just going to be us making all the right choices and blah, 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 and moving forward, which in some ways, you're not going to make a wrong choice because that's also a construct. You're going to make a choice that leads you to the next step. Mm-hmm. But it's not always going to feel like I'm moving forward. Sometimes it's going to feel like I've incorporated all my spiritual stuff in my life and all of a sudden everything is boring again. Cool. Find something else fun. Which is kind of the motion, I guess, of this podcast in that space of this episode is like how to find those things, how to find those magical moments and add them and apply them to your life so that you can really claim your power and that you don't forget about how magical you are on a daily basis.
Another aspect of it is how to create those moments and be conscious about them, because so many of us feel, especially right now, like life is happening to us when life is happening for us. But like, okay, life is happening for us. I hope, and I apologize, I feel like someone who's listening to or watching this was just triggered by that, and rightfully so. So let me explain. Life is happening for you. Absolutely. That doesn't mean that every single thing is a barrel of monkeys and a super amazing time. But it's also easy for those moments that when it feels like things that are happening on a large enough scale that you feel like you don't have an impact on. When those moments happen, we have tools. We have tools to show you how you can actually take your power, your authority into your hands, make a difference on whatever level life brings to you, because that's where it will. So the first thing I really want to talk about is when you feel powerless because things are happening on a national or a social or a planetary scale, which we've seen the whole world go through something together. And now we're already in this year breaking into our little groups again, And so now it's like, well, that's going to happen and I can't do anything about it. You can't do anything at that level or in that room because you're in this room, but something in this room affects what happens in that room. And so like right now, one of the silliest things that it might appear is that my husband and I are looking at a certain subscription service that we subscribe to, and we're deciding whether or not certain actions taken by that service align with us. And if they do not, we are going to remove our energy, our finances, our subscription from that service and place our energy, our power, our authority into one that does align with us. That is making a difference because we as a unit are saying, we do not support this. We support this. We are taking our energy out of the thing that we don't want to see more of. And we are increasing our energy towards the thing that we do want to see more of. And it is not taking away from our energy reserves whatsoever, because it's the same energy. It's equal. So it's not draining or anything like that. It is just taking my focus, my intention from one thing that I don't like and is causing me, whatever discomfort or irritation, and putting it into the thing that makes me feel better and that I can be excited about. That is what you deserve. Not only are you happier, but you are increasing the positive energy, the positive vibes, the high vibes, whatever, and withdrawing it from the thing that you want to see less of.
Yeah.
That is your power to be able to do. And you have that autonomy.
I love that you highlight with finances too. So I've said this a million times. I will say it a million more, but money is the way we have made trust tangible in this lifetime. So where you put that literally highlights you're giving something more trust. And if they break that trust, that is part of the contract. You get to withdraw it. You get to move your money into someplace else where that your trust will be fostered. A while back, Weston and I moved to a very, we bank with a smaller time, like just local in this state bank for that same reason. No big banks, small banks, because that was more aligned financially and ethically and morally for us, is we wanted it more in that space, credit union, that kind of energy, because it's not feeding a machine that we didn't appreciate, that is a concrete way to take back your magic, which doesn't necessarily feel magic, but your sovereignty is magical. And oftentimes we completely forget that we have a lot more agency than we are told that we have, I think, energetically. Like everything in our system is built to make us feel very small, when in reality, we're all very, very large. And everything you do to impact your own vibration impacts the vibration of every person you come in contact with. So the more you're living in high vibration alignment, the more people around you will live in high vibration alignment, and so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. They've actually proven scientifically that our cells talk to each other. That's where you hold our vibration anyway. So on a very core level, if that's even what you need to like talk your brain into understanding this, there's that.
Well, and if you feel like you can't believe that, then I'm about to blow your mind, because every time I think about when I tell people this and they still want to deny it, I remember the one thing that is going to help ease their mind enough. So if I tell you that your action, no matter how small, causes a difference, even if it's just a little one, people are going to be like, yeah, but it's just a little one. Okay. Who's heard of the starfish parable? You wouldn't talk to a child, tell them the starfish parable and say, yeah, but the other billion of starfish though. No, you made a difference for that one. That is what the parable like culminates in. I made a difference for that one. And the next time I have an opportunity, I'll make a difference for that one. I remember I've told this before. I was born believing I could save the world. And, you know, we all can, but I was like super passionate about it as a kid. I would go around telling people I'm going to save the world. And the darkest time in my life, at least in my earlier life, was the 3 days that I believed someone when they told me I couldn't do it alone. And after 3 days, I realized that it was crazier to believe that person and be sad for the rest of my life than it was to just try. And so I decided changing the world looks like one person at a time, which is totally doable. And the more people you talk to, the more people you smile at, or the more people you compliment without actually having to, you know, without them asking for one or whatever, give out compliments. You're changing the vibe of an entire location when you just say, hey, and it doesn't have to be like a physical based compliment. Those are becoming less and less, they're super helpful. Like if you notice someone is killing that outfit today, let them know, but let it be something that is about them and not just, oh, your makeup looks good or whatever. Like if they obviously are into makeup, fine. There's nuances to this, obviously, but I like to really compliment someone on the way they carry themselves or on something that they've done, because that worth, when they change their outfit or their look tomorrow, that stays there. That's a part of them and their value that they can keep in their mind moving forward. So it's like, you handled that guest really well. Thank you. Or anything like that. Giving compliments is hugely magical. It will change so much. And you'll end up, because you're giving it out, equal and opposite, it'll come back to you. So you will receive more, you'll feel good doing it because you're going to see someone smile. You'll have made someone's day, but also you'll be creating that person who exudes magic and attracts magic to them. And that is one of the ways that I prefer for when it comes to shielding techniques. I'm putting out way too much magic to allow negativity in.
I would say similar as far as like shielding techniques. Absolutely. Excuse me.
We've all been there.
Oh, I know, right? It's always right when I get to talk too. It's like, now I need to clear my throat, of course. But especially when it comes to shielding techniques or things like that, just showing up in that way with so much magic and so much energy, being the rubber to other people's glue. is really, really valuable. I also just want to say too, when it comes to those levels of compliments for magic, for energy in that space, give them to yourself. If you did something awesome, say that to yourself. Write down on your phone or in a journal compliments you wish someone would say to you. That's fine. That's you saying it to yourself genuinely when you write it down. And that's a way to really maintain your energy too, and make yourself feel more like you're moving forward, more like your life is moving, because gradually you're going to understand that those compliments are real, and that will show genuine progress. The other thing that I always recommend to people, especially when they're struggling to feel in alignment, or if they feel like they've been thrown out of their alignment, is to bring back the fun. But I always want to change the term fun, because it's really easy for us to be like, find something fun to do each week. The idea of figuring out what is fun becomes a daunting, energetically overwhelming task. I have a list of things that I find fun that I will genuinely look up and pull from if I'm like, ooh, I have time for some fun things. What is that? So I don't freeze. I highly recommend that for other people as well. But if you feel like the concept of fun is too big, too daunting, what is exciting, what is joyful, what is inspirational or inspiring? Those words are just as good, because they come with fun every bit of the time. So that is one really solid way to maintain your power, to maintain your energy, is you having that sovereignty to be like, I'm doing something fun consciously. It is not frivolous. It is not a waste of my time. It is because that is how I'm going to feel the most alignment. And if it's not fun, it is inspiring or exciting or joyful or something like that. So that is one of the best tips I always give, is if you want to feel more in your alignment, bring the fun back into something. If you're feeling bored with your spiritual practice, with your magic practice, with what you've been doing, well, how can you make it fun and inspiring again? And have a brainstorm session with yourself. There's no rules.
Yeah, that's the best thing about life is, any rules that we believe exist are made up, because everything is made up. Everything is perception. Just like, again, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Perception comes from you. And the minute you decide that something is pretty, it's pretty because you've decided it is, and now you like it and you're drawn towards it. If you suddenly decide that's not pretty, or you suddenly decide you don't like an experience anymore, then it becomes an experience that is not good for you. The same thing happens with literally anything you apply it to. And if you're looking for a way to shift that perception, I think a really great movie that helps with that is Rise of the Guardians. Right? Rise of the Guardians. It's a DreamWorks movie. It's streaming somewhere right now, I think, because I see ads for it all the time on my on my TV.
Sure, it is. Everything's streaming somewhere. Like, come on.
Definitely look it up. You'll love it. It's super high vibe. I wish there were more stories to go along with it, but there's a ton of fan content out there for it now. They've even included Jack Frost with like Elsa and Merida and I think Rapunzel in a whole fan-made team that goes around. I've seen it on like my Pinterest and stuff. Super, super cool. I really love it. I think also Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon is part of that crew. But again, like, why wouldn't, like, exactly, like, let's put all these amazing people together. So if you're looking for a way to do that, I highly recommend, whatever age you are, watching Rise of the Guardians, because it's amazing. I used to watch it on repeat just because you can watch it again after finishing it. It's that good. But it's all about finding that decision to see something a certain way. And I go through a Course in Miracles every year. Like I do a little bit of it. And one of the biggest concepts of it is there's no level of importance when it comes to a miracle. Every little thing is just as amazing as all the big things that we call big. So like, it's all because it's all part of the all, right? Everything is amazing. Everything is awesome. And so if you think about exactly, I hope everybody listening is starting to sing that song.
I just started dancing for those of you listening. Krista said everything is awesome. And I just immediately like, everything's cool when you're part of a team.
Exactly.
It's the best song.
A perfect example, right? Like even in the context of that movie, they have changed the perception of something to be awesome, even though there's still room for change for sure in that world. And so there's room for change in our world too, but you don't have to be dragged down by that change all the time. Your power is in the ability to find joy in each moment, which is going to sustain you in taking action to do whatever feels like the most aligned right thing to do for you.
And I want to add to that too. Finding joy in each moment does not mean being joyful in every moment. I find a lot of joy in divine expressions of anger. If I'm very, very mad about something and I get to express it, God, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
That is finding joy. That is not being joyful constantly. That is a form of bypassing, especially spiritual bypassing, which is genuinely a very big problem in the spiritual community, is when people discover spirituality, they learn the base level stuff that makes them feel good, and then they use that to bypass all of the rest and bypass other people's life experiences, enter into closed practices, you name it, they do it because that's a form of spiritual bypassing. Saying that you need to remain joyful in all moments will jam you up like nobody's business. But divinely expressing your emotions so they actually get to come out and you get to experience them is a form of remaining joy, or having joy in each moment, because you will be able to look at that and be like, whew, cool, I feel better, I did this thing. That's the goal.
And I will tell you, ranting is cathartic.
Oh my God, yeah.
I love ranting so much. And I found people in my life who appreciate it when I rant. So if I come to them and say, I need to rant, and like, just know, I already know there's a solution to this. I've already talked myself into the rational side of it, but I still need to feel the feeling so that I can then in alignment take the correct action. Can you just hold space for me to rant for a second? I have people who are like, please come to me when you're ready to rant. I love your rants. So thank God for them. But I will rant. And on this podcast, when I'm about to go into what's a minor version of my rants, I do call it soapboxing. So I prepare all of you as well when I'm about to go into that.
But it's so not only cathartic, but it helps you to work out the things that are in alignment versus the things that are not in alignment. And that is a really concretely magical thing to do. I do this in a really like base level way with things like books, things like movies, things like TV shows. Like if you can rant about all the things you dislike about it, it helps you to understand what is high vibration for you and helps you to like translate into like what you're actually going to like. And that's really awesome. That's really awesome. So saying things you dislike, bitching, quote unquote, about stuff you don't like isn't low vibration. It's not. Now, if it were to attack someone's character, if it were to completely lower your vibration because you're sitting in that mindset constantly, that would be the things I would caution against. But being like, let me tell you my top 5 most hated literary tropes and why I think they're absolute garbage because they're so low vibration, that is totally fine because you're like highlighting that. In a way that is in alignment. But I love your rants, so I'm never going to tell you them out.
See?
They're great.
Yeah.
They're great rants.
But you're right. There's a difference between trying to attack and hurt someone with your words and trying to process and express and, you know, come to terms with your own emotions, which is not directed at harming anyone. And so that's where like something that, I can't remember what the binary opposite of vice is, but there are things that are benefits and they can flip into vices very subtly. And you'll know the difference because you can feel where you're just trying to remain bitter or angry or whatever that not self theme is, as compared to letting it out, letting it process, coming to terms with it. It's like a phase of grief almost where you're coming to acceptance of it. And acceptance isn't, I accept that it's reality. Acceptance is, this is the way my life is. I see this objectively. I feel this subjectively, and I can accept this as a piece of who I am and now move forward as that whole and complete person, which Carl Jung said was very necessary. In order to be your whole and complete self, you need the shadow and the light. That's psychology.
Yes. I loved that finger, like, yes, I wiped that slate. We did.
I've been reading books.
It came back around. Other things that I do highly recommend to like maintain your power. And I also just want to touch part of the reason we're talking about this today is especially with things that are large in the collective, they've been building up. Our cups have been filling and filling and filling and filling for the last essentially 3 years, even pre-pandemic. I would be even willing to say 6, but like our cups have been filling big time. And we're reaching, all of us collectively are reaching the point of can't take this level of external collective energy from things we quote unquote cannot change that are just seeming so out of our hands. So that's part of the reason we want to talk about like maintaining your magic, connecting with your power, reclaiming your power on a very personal level, is so that Olaf quote of like, we call this controlling the things we can when things feel out of control. That's what we're doing here. We're Olafing while still telling you and reinforcing the fact that you are incredibly magical and incredibly powerful, more so than you believe. 100% of the time. I know that is true for me too. I believe I'm a certain level of magical and then that gets disproven. And I believe I'm a certain level of magical and that gets disproven. So it's a constant growth and you don't have to believe it like blind trust. all at the same time. That's something that I've gotten a lot of feedback on before, where I've been like, hey, if you don't trust these pings, this intuitive stuff, if you don't feel like, if you're like, whoa, I think my guide said that, but I don't know, you are not required to blindly trust that that's what they said. You can ask them to give you validation. You can ask the universe, your guides, creator, whoever it is, to be like, hey, I feel like this is what you want me to do. Prove it. Give me validation this way. That is fine. And that is a big deconstruction thing from a lot of, whether you grew up religious or not, that is a big thing that we are taught, is like, oh, we have to trust that this is in our best interest. We have to trust that. We have to. No, you don't.
But that's not even what trust truly is. Trust is an establishment of a connection and a reliability on both sides. So if you want to, speaking from a religious or a more non-denominational perspective, trust God, then it's got to be a dialogue, man. You have to ask questions and get answers. And one of the things, like, we are brought up hearing you have to have your own relationship with God. Relationships are not one-sided. They're just not. So it's all about you giving and you giving and you giving, and God being impartial. I heartily disagree. I think God very much cares. I think the divine very much cares, and cares so much that they're not going to shove things in your face. So one of the things that I think God does, or the divine does, is waits for you to be ready to ask. And then when you are, like, I've asked on behalf of, like, my family, like, why did you put this person through that really hard time? That's not going to make them love you more. That's not going to make them want to come to you. And the answer was, I took them to their lowest, so they have no choice but to talk to me. It's like, okay. And that was a big thing about even quarantine. Everybody was alone or in solitude and in a space where not a lot around them was changing. So the only voices they had were their own, and whatever other voices were in their head calling out to them. It was a space where you could connect to your connection to the divine.
Yeah.
Tons of people had quote unquote awakenings during that period, and they stuck to certain levels and certain degrees, which was perfect. And they continue to grow. And it's just so important to remember that you are not subjugated beneath a divine. You are a part of the conversation, a part of the whole expression, and a spark and an idea and a thought from that divine source. And therefore you matter.
Yeah. I always highlight this, like, one of my biggest things when I really started leaning into my psychic abilities, which I had to deconstruct all of the, like, this is negative and all of that stuff to get here. There's no way in hell that any divine source created you just so that you could worship said divine source. It doesn't make any logical sense. Energetically, like, that would be useless. So allow yourself to understand you are part and an extension of, and less of a, like, need to be subservient in that space. I also, whoa, that thought went away. I was going to share it. It was important, and then it's gone. I guess it's not that important.
It'll come back up when it needs to. But on that topic,
what the hell? That was,
maybe
like,
it's my fault. I think it might be my fault, because I got a thought in my head. So I think we may have seesawed there for a second.
I mean, it happens. You should see us when we're actually physically together, guys. It is ridiculous.
We have a good time.
It's so fun, but also it's, like, constant, this level of, like, oh, I felt like you needed protection, so I put you in a box because
that was so helpful. I really needed it. I tell people about that, like, Emily's so great. So
she does the same for me too. It's not just me, but it's just hilarious to me that, like, that this level is, like, a very small amount of what we do in, like, actual when we're together.
Oh, we have so much fun. I love it. I'm so excited to come visit you at the end of the month. Like, we'll probably record an episode together, so look forward to that, everybody. But I've been reading a lot of Gnostic texts lately, because I'm comparing Gnostic.
Okay, sorry, the thought came back.
Oh, okay.
Why is this happening?
So I'm going to say this really quickly.
Please do.
So
I just wanted to say that it's there.
One of the things that I've noticed in the Gnostic texts, and I'm glad that actually brought your idea back, I had a feeling it would, is that they'll say this happened, and they glorified the higher version. So, like, God created, let's say, Sophia and the other eons and stuff, and they glorified the oneness. Well, glorified doesn't always mean they fell to their knees and worshiped, but it does mean that their existence specified and made clearer and detailed what the oneness was, because the whole idea of the oneness is you can't describe it because it is everything, and being a part of the everything, you don't really have a concept of everything else, because you have all of you have the ingredients to make bread, but you're not the entire sandwich. You know what I mean? So the lettuce and the tomatoes and the bread glorify the sandwich because they make it conceivable in another way and in another form. And when you need more lettuce in your life, you can appeal to lettuce energy and call that in. When you need more bread in your life, you can call in the bread energy, and it's all part of the sandwich.
I just got this visual. I have 2 rabbits, for those of you who may or may not know, and they are constantly calling in the lettuce energy. The visual of my sweet little Doompot, that is his name, my husband named it, don't worry about it. He's a tiny white rabbit with a spectacle like polka dot over his eye, but him, like, every time I like walk by, like putting his paws on me and looking at me like, oh my god, that is like him summoning the lettuce energy. It was the best visual ever, so thank you for that.
You are welcome.
Your point is very valid, and I think it's beautiful, but that was just, thank you for that one.
So just reframing that, it's not becoming subservient. It is honoring your part as a piece of the whole, and recognizing that the whole needs you, and that you are, included in all of that. And so you emphasize the amazingness that is whatever the all is. And you can conceive of it through the expression that you are and the combination that you are. So what were you thinking?
Well,
what were you thinking, Emily?
I mean, Jesus.
I'm sure you hear.
I have other things that came up with that too, but I will share what I was thinking, so that hopefully the other things can come up. But when you were talking about divine expression, I don't know if you're on the side of TikTok where you've been hearing that God is a bit of a freak song. It is not trending, but if you need to look it up, it's fantastic.
Send me one.
I will. It's by the artist Peach PRC. She's on TikTok. She's also just really awesome. I think it comes out on the 4th, so like as in like an actual like song, but the TikToks from there have been amazing because it's such a high vibration thing. Even though it is, and I highly suggest everyone go look it up, especially if you have any sort of background in like religious trauma or anything like that, but it's incredibly divine in my opinion, because it's this whole idea of like, God's priorities are really fucked up if you're going by what the church is saying God's priorities are. And like that energetic of reclaiming, like listening to music that makes you feel like you're reclaiming your power, whether it's as a female reclaiming some of your female sovereignty and your female power, which is super amazing and super empowering. Lots of songs out there for that. Or if it's, understanding God on a deeper level, like your religious deconstruction level, music in that space is a way to add a lot of magic and power back into your life when things feel very much like they're far apart. So that is what I was going to say. I had something else to say about Gnosticism too, and then that went away. So I don't know what's going on, but here we are.
I have an entire playlist for when I've forgotten who I am. I used to have this, I had this one crystal, it was an Indara crystal, and I kept it in a little necklace all the time. And when I channeled into it and I asked, what are we doing together? It was to remind them who you are. And I was like, cool, remind me while we're at it. And after a period of time, it literally fell out of the little cage I had it in on my necklace and dropped into a toilet just as the toilet was being flushed. Like same instant, there was no pause, there was no stutter. And I was like, well, I guess we figured it out, like, bye. And then I ended up getting another Indara crystal, whatever, but like, it just left because the goal was complete. But remembering who you are,
that's mind blowing.
I go through it probably at least once a month where I'm like, I forgot who I was again. I need to listen to this music. And I'll listen to the music I listened to when I would like just jam out as a 14-year-old, because at that point I knew who I wanted to be. And now I can be that. There's nothing in my way. And there wasn't then either, but like I'm 31, I can be whatever I want to be. And if that's, wearing a crown and walking around my house in like a Legend of Zelda Link outfit, but with a crown on because I can have all the things, then I'm going to do that. Like what, this is why you'll see me wearing boots and leggings. It's not because they are on trend. I get really excited when they are, because it just happens to coincide, but it's because I feel more like Link from Legend of Zelda, not afraid to admit it. Because wearing that helps me embody the energy that I want in my life, which helps me to act accordingly to who I believe I should be and can be and want to be. So music does the same thing. Like I'll sing songs and really allow myself to go into that energy, and it becomes a modality, of course, where I'm putting that energy into reality, just like when we write books. And it really helps.
I completely agree with that. I'm going to make a playlist of songs that remind me who I am, which is so funny to look back. I've gone through a lot of phases of person. There's very little consistency, but they all still feel like me. And I think that's very relative for a lot of people. If you look back at different versions of yourself, probably were into different things. You like different things. Looking back and having that nostalgia for yourself is such a valuable healing tool, and also will help you reclaim so much power. So I love the idea of a playlist. What I tend to do when I feel not like myself is I go ride a horse. So that's my go-to, because that's been the consistency in my life since I was like 4 years old. No one in my family rides horses. I also just want to preface that. Me as a 4-year-old child, my mom's like, you want to do ballet? I was like, no, I want to ride horses. You want to play soccer? No, I want to ride horses. So she, being the gem of a human that she is, made it happen. And that has been my consistent forever. But there's nothing quite like sitting on the top of a horse and understanding something small can actually control something big, with nothing but your thoughts. So that is always my go-to. If you ever want to do some healing, go around livestock. Genuinely get permission. I mean, go to a place where you can be around livestock. Don't just go into a field of cows, please, for the love of God.
That image.
Just a bunch of people like, heal me, cows. Please don't do that. I mean, unless you go to a place where they're like, these cows, you can hang out with these cows. Do it. But there is nothing quite like that. It's really, really empowering and pretty magical. But I love that emphasis on, I love the idea of the playlist. The other thing I have been doing, and it feels fun to me, I wanted to make spirituality feel more fun to me again, because again, I hit that plateau. It's so incorporated into my life. I don't even realize when I talk to my guides sometimes. I know they're talking. If you ask where'd that come from, I'd be like, oh, it's from this particular guide, but it's just so incorporated. It doesn't feel as magical. I've been actually making, instead of just a journal where I'm noting down different spiritual things that happen, different ideas that happen, different meditations I get downloaded, all this stuff, I made it like a scrapbook. So it's pretty, because then it makes it fun. So then I'm like looking forward to building the pretty thing, as opposed to like, I'm just writing this down and it's in an order. Now I can be like, ooh, let me open my like homemade grimoire-esque feeling magical book of awesome that has moon stickers and feel better about it, and like look back at a spiritual progress. Other thing I did recently, and I highly recommend doing this too, especially if you are a reader, if you want to get into reading, get a book journal. There's tons of them on Etsy, but it makes so much more fun because you just like check off things that you've read and like write the name on a book spine or like whatever it is, like little things like that, where you can make things exciting that would otherwise feel ordinary. Such a fantastic way of reclaiming your power. It also just leaves more room for ahas, for downloads, for connection with your guides, for connection with your higher self, because you're doing things where you're in a space of almost meditation in joy, meditation in creativity, meditation in comfort, meditation in these things that feel like fun and play. So the more you can bring that in, the more you're going to get the aha, the clarity, you're going to see how things interconnect, see how your little thing that you did over here affects that person over there, etc.
Yeah. I love the comparison between your journal and mine because I use it's the Honeycomb Collective planner, and it has all of like a lot of detailed astrology stuff in it. And so I have a list of the mundane transits, of my transits, of Time Lord activated transits for a day. And I will bullet point things that happened that day. And then I highlight in different colors the transits that corresponded with that. And so my like type A brain is just like, I can't wait to highlight the transits today. And like, I don't have the stickers and things like that because it's all on my iPad. But I think that it's so important because it's something to look forward to. And it helps you connect. Oh, look, this magical thing was truly supposed to happen, divine timing. This normal thing was magical, everything. It's awesome.
I also love the fact that your brain is so type A. Mine is the farthest from type A humanly possible. Most of my journals have no start or finish. I just open to a random page and write in it, because that broke my perfectionism thing that I had. Just pick a fucking page. I highly recommend that. If you're struggling to heal from perfectionism, your journal is not requiring you to be perfect. You can scribble shit out. You can write in pen, you can write in pencil, whatever it is, pick a page. But like, even in the scrapbooking space, or even in like my desk and workspace, or even in my house, like, it is not organized chaos. It is genuine chaos, and it is great. It is so comfortable for me. It feels energetically completely right. Everything is just kind of modge podge together into like the inside of my brain being external. I have 10,000 unread emails. It's fine. I don't care. Energy. It's so opposite. And I always appreciate when someone does have a very type A brain and seeing how you feel magical in a line versus how I feel magical in a line. And then there's, of course, a spectrum for everybody. But just to highlight that, it can be whatever feels most comfortable for you. That is fine.
And I totally like, I actually, it's one of my like things that I like to look at is people who do bullet journaling, because I never could. I don't know if it's like in my skill set to just randomly create this, you know, illustrative version of it. So I look at people's bullet journals and just appreciate how pretty they are. And then I go back to highlighting my little lists, but like to everybody their own thing. And it's all magic, because literally the entire world and everything in it is magic. We just, one of my mentors, and I've been bringing this up a lot lately, so it must be, and he even said it seems to be like a shift in the worldview, but he calls it the atheistic materialistic worldview, a world in which everything has to make logical or scientific sense without the incorporation of a higher being or a higher mind or a higher presence. And then you can like add on divinity, but that also, you have to like doubt yourself the whole time when you do that. So, you know, he encourages us to think outside of that and to take into consideration that there is what's it called? It's like occult attributes to things. And that's just like hidden mysteries that I don't have to understand exactly how it works, but I can see the archetypes working together and how the world has this little this interconnection to it, and I can be a part of that. And so it's a really cool thing to go into. If you ever look into like Shakespeare, it shows up there a lot because it was the worldview of the Elizabethan age. So that's pretty fun.
Also, just to throw that in, anytime you're looking at ancient Rome, if you really want to do some deep dive research, one of my favorite topics so far, look at omens from ancient Rome. What they considered omens for things is fascinating. It is it could literally be like, well, yesterday 5 bees landed on the nose of the Claudius statue, and 5 days later there was this flood, which was obviously, and it's just like, the level of everything is so interconnected, and like seeing something over here and having so many people dedicated to like writing those down to make sure that when this happened they could relate it to something else. Like, it's really intriguing. It's super duper cool, and I think there's a lot of validity in it. A lot of like ridiculous, like, you know, Roman men being misogynistic bastards too, but like also a lot of like connectivity. It's pretty interesting. So we have talked through a lot on this episode. Hopefully you guys feel inspired, but I know there's some astrology transits that we want to talk about. But really quick, before we dive into that, Krista and I have a bit of announcement. You guys can see us in person if you guys would like to. We are attending Books, Gowns, and Crowns. It is a bookish event. I don't want to call it a con because it's not necessarily like a con or like a convention or like even a summit, like a or anything mingle like that. It's like a bookish ball. There's a ball that occurs and like a vendor fair and anyway, we're going to be there, and we would love for you guys to be there as well. Tickets go on sale the 25th. Their social media is Books, Gowns, and Crowns. Their email is booksgownsandcrowns.com if you want information. But we were really excited about it. It is it Labor Day weekend in the
It's Labor Day weekend. Okay.
Yeah. Is it I always mix up Memorial and Labor Day.
I've looked this up because I recorded a TikTok that I'll be sharing as well. And it's Labor Day weekend in Portland. And it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
I know. And you guys, you could not only see us there in like a vendor capacity and get like a little mini reading from us, but you can also like come hang out with us at a ball. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So excited.
Let's high five at Books, Gowns, and Crowns.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure we threw that out there because it's really exciting. And like I said, tickets go on sale the 25th, which is really soon. And I know it's going to sell out pretty quickly. So just if it matters to you and you want to be there, be sure you check that out.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
Such a cool idea. I can't wait. I'm like constantly on Pinterest looking for gowns and crowns and just everything I want. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that into the world. Yeah. So cool.
More and more bookish events like this are happening too. And so we're probably going to be at more and more of them, but it's the coolest idea to bring this world, to bring this energy into like real tangible reality, which is sort of what we talk about writing, but also like we get to do that now. We live in a time and space where we can bring it in. Like, what?
This is not a filter. This is sunshine. I just want to talk about that to anybody who's I just looked at my screen. I was like, oh, wow, you're all fuzzy.
No, Krista is covered in rainbows is what is happening for those.
We talked about Books, Gowns, and Crowns, and I'm literally glowing. So, you know,
check it out on YouTube when you can watch Krista turn into a rainbow being.
Yes, I am KristaLyn. Thank you.
Okay, tell us our transits. What's going on?
Joke that never gets old.
I love it. I love it so much.
So this week, Mars is going to form a sextile with Jupiter, which is like good trouble. in my mind. The skit I have for it is like, what do you get when you mix ambition and expansion? I don't know. Let's find out. And at the same time, though, the sun will conjunct Saturn. So I imagine that while there will be something that gets a bit exuberant and we make some increased progress in something that is an expansive thing, it's going to be something that's like, we've discovered how to make this work. And now we're going to like apply it, and we're going to, roll it out in a rational and, not restricted kind of way, but structured way. So it's like rapid expansion, but under the strict supervision of Saturn and the sun, saying, okay, we're beginning this new cycle. You two, I see what you're doing. Have fun, be good. Not necessarily in that order, as my mom always used to say. So it's a burst of progress, and right, have fun and be good, not necessarily in that order.
My mom always used to be like, make good choices.
And then, so that's on the 4th, which is coming up. And then on the 8th, Mars is at it again, trining Uranus in Taurus. So we know Mars is ambitious. Mars is in a very Mars happy place right now. It's exalted in Capricorn. So I see this as aligned progress and change happening pretty quickly. So something just like a clog finally coming out of the pipe. And it's like, oh, well, that was sudden. And it was, it loosened things up. The trine forms an easy aspect. So it may happen so easily that you're just like, oh, well, there it was. And it just goes. So because it's not a square or an opposition or something like that, you may not notice it as a struggle or a conflict, but you may still notice it as a surprise, and hopefully a more pleasant and aligned one. At the same time, Venus is about to conjoin with Mars for a long time. And they are pretty well within orbit at this point. And they're just going to run together until throughout March, which I just see that as compromises and negotiations happening. Because if you think about Venus and Mars, they are the Aries and the Aphrodite sort of energies. And so moving together, it's like, how can we take this ambition and add some compromise so that we're making progress, but we're doing it in a fair way? And, how can we soften this aggression a little bit? So that to me forms compromises, sometimes arguments, because Venus can get passionate as well. So especially with Mars being in the more exalted position, I just imagine that it's like Mars being very Mars and Venus sort of being like, okay, honey, but let's be careful here. So I think this really will help, especially since Venus gets a little bit of a leg up being the ruler of Uranus, since Uranus is in Taurus, right?
Venus is direct now. Just gonna.
I know, you guys. So Emily is Venus ruled, in case anybody noticed. And how funny, I'm Mars ruled.
I know.
So we're gonna hang out
much
together
better now, though.
I think that's going to be really interesting to see what happens with us through this period of time when those two are conjunct.
Right.
And so we'll see. We'll keep you guys posted. That's going to be fun. But that's on the 8th. So overall, relatively positive aspects with some interesting action elements going on. So it'll be interesting to see if these positive aspects make outlandish things easier to happen, or if they mitigate and temper and allow things to be. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of excitement, and we're going to have to decide how we decide to accept that.
What I described it in is my forecast of the week, which again, I love that we tune into energy in different ways.
I don't exist anymore.
You're just completely covered in rainbows.
Yay!
There it is. It's still a little bit there, but it's not direct.
Now it's just beams.
Yeah. But I described it as large news stories affecting like general collective, but not immediately us on a personal level, where you'll just be like, well, that's some crazy shit that's happening. Like I can register that and move on. But for us on a personal level, it's a week of very much like up and down energy, where you're like 1 minute really excited, the next minute really tired. Like that kind of energy, just it's going to come in through this week quite a bit. Specifically on Sunday, for some reason, that comes up really strongly of a day of like, maybe take some deep breaths and go outside for a minute, because it feels very much like in and out, in and out, in and out kind of energy. So that's relatively what I could see in collective too. So I love when you validate that, of course, with all of the astrology stuff, but it's just really fun.
Yeah. So that's why this episode will hopefully be very helpful in helping you remember that while things are going on on a high level, here's
Mhm.
where you have control. Here's where you make a difference. Here's where your power exists and can be expanded upon.
Yeah.
So
Build a
remember, Mars
snowman.
is power in the traditional sense, and
Mhm.
Jupiter is expansion. So there is this opportunity of expanding your power right now in a structured way, being able to acknowledge it, see it, and apply it in a tangible way in your life. So maybe that's one of the reasons why this episode happened right now too.
Probably is. Probably is. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening again. If you want to watch us and you want to see all these rainbows on Krista's face, check us out on YouTube. It's really cool. I'm not lying. It's like really, really neat. It's magical as heck. Also, rainbows are my validation, which means everything you said is correct. Good job. But we just really want to encourage you guys to continue taking your own power forward, to continue incorporating as much of your own magic and power into your life. Hopefully this episode has served as inspiration or at least catharsis for you, so that you feel like, hey, other people feel the same way, of like everything doesn't always have to be magical in order for it to be magical, or something in that capacity. That was our goal when we came up with this. But yeah, you're not alone. You got this. And remember that it's always time to go make some magic. Oh, that was our best one yet. Yes.
Wow. Yay. Us. That is just more confirmation. Rainbows. And we got that on time. You guys have so got this. We believe in you.
Bye-bye.